Hello, and welcome to Chapter 14, Corporate and Organizational Sustainability Management. There are many businesses that have made a significant contribution to sustainability. They have looked at their business process and tried to find ways to deliver goods and services while considering issues of sustainability. Some businesses infuse the three E's of sustainability, namely environment, economics, and equity, within their corporate decision making. Cognitive dissonance describes when we avoid having conflicting beliefs and attitudes because it makes us feel uncomfortable. The clash is usually dealt with by rejecting, debunking, or avoiding new information. Rejecting, rationalizing, or avoiding information that conflicts with our beliefs can lead us to make poor decisions. This is because we don't reject information because it is false, but rather because its reality makes us feel uncomfortable. Decisions made in the absence of truth can have harmful consequences on both ourselves and those around us. For example, smoking has been proven to cause cancer and contribute to various other chronic conditions, even for those who inhale it secondhand. Smokers often rationalize their detrimental decision to continue smoking by either denying evidence that supports its health risks or by considering themselves to be the lucky exception. Their dismissal resolves their dissonance and enables them to continue making poor decisions that will later compromise their physical health. Cognitive dissonance threatens many social causes which require us to change our existing beliefs and behaviors to be effective. This is possible if we refuse to even consider evidence that may be part of the problem. Instead, we'll do anything to justify our current standings rather than join the necessary change. Take environmentalism, for example. Although most of us care about nature and want to preserve it, most evidence indicates we aren't doing nearly enough as individuals to save the planet. In fact, we actively damage the planet through our daily routines, such as drinking coffee. Our destructive behaviors are often at odds with our environmental beliefs. When called out on our contradictions, many of us respond by either rationalizing our unsustainable habits, rejecting the evidence environmentalism upholds, or believing that individual action doesn't matter all that much. However, each of our individual refusals to change accumulates into widespread passivity, preventing the radical transformations vital for environmentalism to be effective. Climate change has been the most debated, deliberated, and calculated phenomenon in recent times. Its consequences are massive, often irreversible, not only for the flora, fauna, and socioeconomic life, but almost every sphere of life on Earth. As the threats from climate change become increasingly visible and felt, its inclusion in almost every multilateral and bilateral deliberation has become a must. Countries around the world have set different goals and pledged different technologies to curtail it. However, the geopolitical and economic priorities of countries have become impediments to their realization. Though the leaders recognize the need for climate change adaptation and mitigation as indispensable, the collective cognitive dissonance has taken over, as evident in the missed promises and misplaced priorities, especially from the biggest polluters. Why is there so little action in favor of environmental protection, even though most people are convinced it's a necessity? People habitually behave in a counter-latitudinal manner in their daily lives in the domain of environmental protection. Despite being interested in the mitigation of the greenhouse effect, many of them still drive to work each day, even if other less polluting alternatives are available. By definition, acting as in a counter attitudinal manner arouses cognitive dissonance, and people are then motivated to restore consistency by changing either their attitudes or their behaviors. Nevertheless, some habits persist. Regarding environmental issues, individuals change neither their attitudes, that, for example, still being in favor of environmental protection, nor their behaviors, for example, continuing to use their car. Although the necessary conditions must be met, people appear not to experience cognitive dissonance or else make no effort to reduce it. Cognitive dissonance refers to a situation where a person holds two or more contradictory ideas, beliefs, values, or attitudes. This creates psychological tension and discomfort. Some key points about cognitive dissonance include it arises from inconsistency between cognitions. This could be between beliefs, values, attitudes, knowledge, or behaviors. For example, believing that one is environmentally conscious but rarely recycling or using public transport. It also produces negative psychological arousal. Cognitive dissonance leads to feelings of guilt, embarrassment, anxiety, etc. This motivates the person to reduce the dissonance. Businesses can suffer from cognitive dissonance in several ways as established by research. The first being strategic dissonance. When a company's strategies, goals, and actions are misaligned or contradictory, it leads to dissonance that hampers performance. For example, a company pursuing cost leadership but repeatedly spending heavily on marketing. Next is organizational dissonance. Disagreement between executives, functional departments, or employees on key metrics or priorities creates tension. For example, the marketing and R&D teams have different views on product priorities. And finally, behavioral dissonance. When company practices, policies, or leadership messaging are incongruous with the desired brand image or culture, it causes discomfort. For example, an eco-friendly brand that fails to implement sustainable practices internally. In marketing, cognitive dissonance relates to consumers' expectations, feelings about brands, and internal logic when deciding to buy something. Marketers try to be aware of potential conflicts or expectations that might affect buying decisions. For a marketer, if cognitive dissonance involves purchasing their product, they typically want to resolve the conflict in favor of what they'll be trying to sell. High dissonance motivates businesses to take actions to reduce it through the following manner: restructuring strategies and goals for coherence, increasing communication and aligning key metrics or priorities across functions, modifying practices, policies, and messaging to match the desired entity. Reducing strategic, organizational, or behavioral dissonance leads to improved decision making, greater employee satisfaction, stronger brand equity, and better business performance. In summary, cognitive dissonance mitigation is critical for business well being and success. Companies are doing business in an unpredictable world. Climate change, dwindling natural resources, and ever increasing demand on our energy and food supply are disrupting business operations and supply chains in unexpected ways. It's more important than ever for private and public organizations to fundamentally rethink the way they function. Transforming into successful, sustainable business requires new levels of resilience and agility rooted in responsible practices that preserve our planet. Sustainability is a business imperative and should be core to the strategy and operations of every business. The reasons for this are both ethical and financial. Employees are increasingly looking for mission driven, purpose led employers who care about the planet when deciding where to work. 71% of employees and employment seekers say that environmentally sustainable companies are more attractive employers. Consumers are also willing to pay a premium for goods from brands that are environmentally responsible. 80% of consumers indicate sustainability is important to them. Governments, investors, employees, and customers are demanding new levels of enterprise accountability, including action to address climate change. Many of the world's top economies have or are developing corporate disclosure requirements around environmental impact, driving businesses to curb greenhouse gas emissions. The rise of environmental, social, and governance, or ESG investments criteria and sustainability investing means that a sustainable business is inherently more attractive to the rising numbers of responsible investors. Investment in an ESG asset may reach 53 trillion by 2025, representing over a third of global assets. To safeguard our planet and our future, companies need to drive decarbonization, meet environmental regulatory requirements and compliance deadlines, and improve resource consumption. Those paving the way in sustainable business practices are embracing new business models to win customers, increase brand loyalty, and uncover new opportunities to lower costs. Companies that consequently integrate sustainable practices into their operations are seeing valuable business benefits. These benefits include the following. They have a competitive advantage. 55% of consumers say environmentally responsible is very or extremely important when choosing a brand. Being known as a sustainable business can improve your brand awareness and help you attract consumers that are favorably predisposed to companies actively engaged in sustainable practices. Investor appeal. 4 out of 5 personal investors plan to act on sustainability or social responsibility factors in the next 12 months. Compliance with regulatory requirements. Governments will continue to expand regulations and corporate sustainable development goals, staying ahead of the curve by implementing sustainable solutions early on to meet these new regulatory requirements and continually capture, measure, benchmark, and report on ESG performance. Increased longevity of transformation investments. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated digital transformation in most companies. If that transformation is sustainable, you're building a more resilient business that is ready for disruption and new opportunities. Next is talent acquisition. Employees seeking out purpose-driven employment want to work for sustainable and socially responsible companies. By building a reputation as a sustainable business, you can attract and retain the right employees for your company. And finally, revenue growth. By implementing sustainable practices that reduce resource consumption and optimize operational efficiencies, today's change agents become tomorrow's winners as they improve their bottom line. While efforts that have greater overall impact may be more costly to implement at the outset, the long-term gains will justify the investment. Supply chain sustainability refers to companies' efforts to consider the environmental and human impact of their product's journey through the supply chain, from raw materials sourcing to production, storage, delivery, and every transportation link in between. The goal is to minimize environmental harm from factors like energy usage, water consumption, and waste production while having a positive impact on the people and communities in and around their operations. These concerns are in addition to traditional corporate supply chain concerns around revenue and profit. To set the stage for a more comprehensive understanding of supply chain sustainability, here are some foundational definitions and answers to common questions. What is a supply chain? A supply chain is a coordinated network of all the company's facilities and activities involved in developing, manufacturing, and delivering a business's products. What is supply chain management? Supply chain management is the practice of coordinating sourcing, production, inventory management, and transportation among all the participants in a supply chain to maximize efficiency and customer satisfaction. Many businesses realize major time and cost savings by evaluating and improving supply chain management. What is sustainable supply chain management? While conventional supply chain management focuses on the speed, cost, and reliability of operations, sustainability supply chain management adds the goals of upholding environmental and societal values. This means addressing global issues such as climate change, water security, deforestation, human rights, fair labor practices, and corruption. How can a supply chain be sustainable? Companies around the world have taken steps to lower their carbon emissions, cut back on waste, and improve labor conditions. By tracking sustainability metrics in supply chain management systems, they monitor multifaceted programs that, for example, prioritize renewable energy, recycled products and materials, or encourage greater societal responsibility among suppliers. Subaru's Indiana car making plant, the US's first zero waste factory, is a compelling example of a sustainable supply chain as documented by Scientific American. Additionally, companies can use intelligence and predefine rules to ensure that products aren't being shipped unnecessarily. For example, making sure products are sent from the closest distribution center as opposed to one on the other side of the country. Why is sustainability important in the supply chain? Research has shown that for most companies, the supply chain is responsible for the bulk of their environmental impact. By their very nature, supply chains often involve energy intensive production and transportation as goods are made and moved around the globe. Therefore, organizations can often make the biggest difference by making changes to their supply chain rather than other business operations. The complexity of myriad supplier relationships and border crossings also makes supply chain sustainability challenging. This complexity can hinder visibility into important operational considerations such as labor conditions at a supplier's factory that is 1,000 miles away. The goal of sustainable facility management is to create a workplace that has a minimal, neutral, or even positive impact on the environment. This is generally achieved through waste reduction and reusing or recycling resources and materials. Sustainable facilities management often requires a change in daily operations and the structure of the building as well. However, the use of smart technology can oftentimes be used as an alternative to making changes to the building's architecture. Sustainability in facilities management doesn't just affect the building itself, but the entire organization and the people working for it, making sustainability efforts a comprehensive project. The importance of sustainability in facilities management shows up in an up to 60% boost in operational profits, better retention of talent, a smaller carbon footprint, and much more. In a supply chain, making operational changes such as increasing energy efficiency, reducing fossil fuel use and greenhouse gas emissions, and reducing waste are all part of making it more sustainable. Green buildings save money, provide healthier, more productive working conditions, and offer easy ways to demonstrate corporate responsibility. Taking steps such as using fuel efficient vehicles and planes, generating their own power from solar panels, and developing best routing practices are some of the ways FedEx was able to reduce its costs by a substantial amount. Waste reduction or elimination is also key to making operations more sustainable. This can divert waste from the garbage stream and decrease resource depletion with reuse and recycling. On the surface, there has seemingly never been a better time to launch a sustainable offering. Consumers, particularly millennials, increasingly say they want brands that embrace purpose and sustainability. Indeed, one recent report revealed that certain categories of products with sustainability claims showed twice the growth of their traditional counterparts. Yet a frustrating paradox remains at the heart of green business. Few consumers who report positive attitudes towards eco-friendly products and services follow through with their wallets. In one recent survey, 65% said they want to buy purpose-driven brands that advocate sustainability, yet only about 26% actually do so. Narrowing this intention gap, it is important not just for meeting corporate sustainability goals, but also for the planet. The company Unilever estimates that almost 70% of its greenhouse gas footprint depends on which products customers choose and whether they use and dispose of them in a sustainable manner. For example, by conserving water and energy while doing the laundry or recycling containers properly after use. There's a big push from consumers for eco-friendly and socially just products and services. Greener purchasing can catalyze a more sustainable marketplace for all, reducing climate impacts, improving the health of frontline communities, preventing pollution, and increasing U.S. industry competitiveness. There's also a rapid expansion of businesses that offer services that increase sustainability. Ride sharing programs are a great example of this. Zipcar is a local company that offers a car to rent on a short term point to point basis. When the cars being rented are electric, there's even more of a benefit of sustainability. Sustainability has become an imperative for companies as well as for the planet. A decade ago, reducing environmental impact was merely a nice to have for organizations. Today, leaders face ever increasing pressure from employees, customers, and investors to act decisively on environmental issues. It's now a necessity as well as a genuine and enormous business opportunity. There's a problem though. Too many incumbents are lagging, perhaps unaware of the boom in climate technologies or more likely unconcerned about it. Around the world and all across all sectors, emerging climate technology companies are changing the game when it comes to how organizations can and should approach sustainability. We've seen this pattern before, notably in the realm of digital disruption. Rewards on flow Rewards often flow disproportionately to first movers or at a minimum to companies at the forefront of addressing the disruptive threat. So what can be established companies do? They can understand what makes disruptors different, lay a foundation for taking action, and prioritize four imperatives. The first being set a North Star, otherwise known as a bold sustainability vision that sets them apart. Next, double down on talent and culture. Then flex their operating model with leaders role modeling a bold experimental mindset. And finally, take an agile approach to risk capital, knowing commercialization of products and services won't happen overnight. It's hard to imagine today, but little more than a decade ago, sustainability was a niche issue for many organizations. Concern about the changing global climate and the effect of human activity on emissions had been gathering momentum and urgency over the decades. But in 2011, just 20% of companies in the S&P 500 published sustainability or corporate social responsibility reports. And while these reports paid lip service to sustainability, tangible action was rare. Then the wave accelerated. Greenhouse gas reductions stemming from 1997's Kyoto Protocol were implemented from 2008 to 2012 for select countries, and in 2011 the groundwork was laid for what would become the sweeping Paris Agreement sealed in 2015. The rapid increase in public investor awareness, coupled with the emergence of policies driving decarbonization, sparked immediate action. By 2013, the number of S&P 500 companies publishing a sustainability or corporate social responsibility report more than tripled to 72%. In the past 5 years, sustainability has emerged as a critical value driver. As it became apparent that existing efforts may not be sufficient to cap temperature increases, businesses began to recognize the opportunity of addressing the challenge. Organizations began adopting and promoting environmental, social, and governance measures from 2020 to 2021. The number of companies committing to science-based sustainability targets tripled. Finally, corporate newcomers fostering sustainability as a strategic lever to create value began to appear, and we started to see the rise of climate unicorns. In this section, we will look at different driving forces that motivate businesses to adopt a greener attitude in business practices. The number of consumers who seek out products and services that have a better environmental, social, and health attributes has been steadily rising. Intangible assets are non physical that include people, relationships, knowledge, intellectual property, goodwill, brand recognition, and a company's reputation. The increasing importance and global influence of goodwill, branding, and reputation have motivated businesses to adopt a more sustainable practices and product lines. More investors are looking for sustainable long term strategies in the companies they invest in, which is pressuring businesses to adopt these strategies to attract those investors. The triple bottom line is a business concept that states firms should commit to measuring their social and environmental impact in addition to their financial performance rather than solely focusing on generating profit or the standard bottom line. The triple bottom line can be broken down into three P's: profit, people, and planet. Firms can use these categories to conceptualize their environmental responsibility and determine any negative social impacts to which they might be contributing. From there, companies can integrate sustainable practices into every facet of their business operations, including supply chains, business partners, and renewable energy usage, to positively impact society and environment in addition to turning a profit. Let's start with the first P, profit. In a capitalist economy, a firm's success most heavily depends on its financial performance or the profit it generates for stakeholders. Strategic planning initiatives and key business decisions are generally carefully designed to maximize profits while reducing costs and mitigating risk. In the past, many firms' goals have solely focused on economic impact and growth. Now, purpose driven leaders are discovering they have the power to use their businesses to affect positive change in the world without hampering financial performance. In many cases, adopting sustainability initiatives has proven to drive business success. The next is people. The second component of the triple bottom line highlights a business's societal impact or its commitment to people. It's important to make the distinction between a firm's shareholders and stakeholders. Traditionally, businesses have favored shareholder value as an indicator of success, meaning they strive to generate value for those who own shares of the company. As firms have increasingly embraced sustainability, they've shifted their focus towards creating value for all stakeholders impacted by business decisions, including customers, employees, and community members. Some simple ways companies can impact on people and serve future generations include ensuring fair hiring practices and encouraging volunteerism in the workplace. They can also look externally to affect change on a larger scale. For instance, many organizations have formed successful strategic partnerships with nonprofit organizations that share a common purpose driven goal. Finally, the planet. The final component of the triple bottom line is concerned with making a positive impact on the planet. Since the birth of the industrial revolution, large corporations have contributed a staggering amount of pollution to the environment, which has been a key driver of climate change and environmental concerns. A report by the International Energy Agency found that the global energy industry released 135 million tons of methane into the atmosphere in 2022. While businesses have historically been the greatest contributors to climate change, they also hold the keys to driving positive change. Many business leaders are now recognizing their social responsibility to do so. This effort isn't solely on the shoulders of the world's largest corporations. Virtually all businesses have opportunities to make changes that reduce their carbon footprint. Adjustments like ethically sourced materials, cutting down on energy consumption, and streamlining shipping practices are steps in the right direction towards long-term sustainability. Environmental regulations raise production costs at regulated firms, though in most cases the costs are only a small fraction of a firm's total costs. Productivity tends to fall, and firms may shift new investment and production to locations with less stringent regulation. However, environmental regulations have had an enormous benefit in terms of lives saved and illnesses averted, especially through reductions in airborne particulates. The potential health gains may be even greater in developing countries where pollution levels are high. The benefits to society from environmental regulations hence appear to be much larger than the cost of compliance. One underappreciated aspect of environmental regulation in developed countries is that regulatory approaches vary considerably for different pollution media. In the United States, air pollution follows a top-down approach, with the Environmental Protection Agency setting overall national ambient air quality standards for each pollutant that must be met in every county and every state. State agencies must then develop state implementation plans that impose stricter regulations on non-attainment counties, counties whose pollution levels exceed the air quality standards. A similar approach is taken in the European Union, where the European Commission sets air quality standards and countries must develop plans to reduce pollution in any region that fails to meet the standards. In contrast, water pollution regulation flows from bottom-up approach in the United States, but a top-down approach in the European Union. In the US, each plant that discharges into navigable waters requires a permit for those discharges. State regulators write most water permits, which require monthly reporting of discharges. The permits tend to follow the Environmental Protection Agency's industry-specific guidelines, but can be stricter when water conditions warrant. The European Union water regulation is more like air regulation, where countries required to develop a management plan for each river basin district. Concern about toxic materials in the US led to a requirement that manufacturing plants provide annual public reports in the toxic release inventory. Market-based regulatory approaches such as tradable permits have long been favored by economists for providing an efficient allocation of pollution reduction by equalizing the marginal costs of reductions across polluters. Market-based approaches also provide a measure of regulatory intensity since permit prices reflect the marginal costs of abating pollution. In the United States, sulfur allowance trading under the 1990 Clean Air Act amendments was associated with lower than expected compliance costs and widely considered a success. In recent years, tradable permits have been proposed for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, most notably in the European Union emissions trading system. Business owners may be considering making their company more sustainable and environmentally friendly. But how can you tell if a green business is actually sustainable? Here are some of the key factors to look for. Number one, leadership and governance. Does the company have a clear and committed sustainability policy? Are there sustainable practices in place at the top level of the company, such as energy efficient buildings or green procurement policies? Two, employees. Do employees understand the company's sustainability policy? Are they engaged in sustainability practices themselves, such as recycling or using public transport? Three, customers. Do customers know about the company's sustainability policy? Do they support it by buying green products or using green services? Four, community. Is the company involved in sustainable initiatives in the community, such as supporting local farmers or promoting environmental education? Number five, environment. Is the company taking steps to reduce its environmental impact, such as reducing waste or using renewable energy? Six, finances. Is the company making money from its sustainable practices? Are investors interested in supporting the company's green efforts? Seven, growth. Is the company's growth sustainable? Are new products and services environmentally friendly? Eight, branding and marketing. Does the company's branding reflect its commitment to sustainability? Are sustainable practices promoted in its marketing materials? 9. Reporting. Does the company publicly report on its progress towards its sustainability goals? Are data and metrics available to assess performance? Finally, 10. Certification. Has the company been certified by a third party for its sustainable practices? These are just some of the factors to consider when assessing a green or sustainable business. By looking at all aspects of the company, you can get a clear picture of its sustainability credentials and decide if it's the right fit for your business. Greenwashing describes unsubstantiated, exaggerated, or false marketing claims about an organization's environmental sustainability. Despite its legal and long-term business risks, some organizations knowingly engage in greenwashing to increase sales. However, a well-intentioned organization can also engage in greenwashing if it overestimates its initiative's effectiveness or fails to accurately measure its environmental data, such as its carbon footprint. Greenwashing happens when organizations do the following: make broad sustainability claims without evidence, overstate their positive environmental effects in marketing materials, and advertise products as eco-friendly but source raw materials from unsustainable suppliers. As marketing teams craft sustainability campaigns, they should consult with legal teams to prevent potential false advertising. Greenwashing has changed over the last 20 years, but it's certainly still around. As the world increasingly embraces the pursuit of greener practices, corporations face an influx of litigation for misleading environmental claims. If consumer demand for sustainability is the frontier of our transition to a greener, fairer, and smarter global economy, here are 10 basic brand greenwashing tactics that should be avoided. First, fluffy language. Don't throw around words or terms with no clear meaning, such as eco-friendly or natural. Next is green products versus dirty company. Watch out for hypocrites such as efficient light bulbs made in a factory that pollutes rivers. Evocative pictures. Don't use branding images that give an unjustified green impression, such as flowers blooming from exhaust pipes. Next, designations that are just not credible. Look out for the obvious attempts to green a dangerous product or to make it seem safe, such as eco-friendly cigarettes. Imaginary friends. Don't use a label that looks like a third-party endorsement but is actually made up. And finally, outright lies. Never use totally fabricated claims or data. Expanding on the previous slide, here are 6 more tips to avoid inadvertent greenwashing. First, make your claims clear and easy to understand. Include details such as specific units of measurements, such as 70% organic cotton rather than made with organic cotton, and specific certifications and verifiable endorsements from credible third-party eco-organizations such as the Sierra Club or Greenpeace. Next, back up your sustainability claims with data. Keep current data available and updated on your website and anywhere else you make sustainability claims. Only use data that can be verified. If possible, include credible third-party certification from sources such as the Carbon Trust Standard, Forest Stewardship Council, Rainforest Alliance, or Energy Star. Number 3, compare apples to apples. When comparing your product sustainability to a competitor's, make sure to compare the same product type so you're not misleading consumers. Number 4, clean up your operations. If you want to market your products as eco-friendly, you need to walk the walk by making sustainability a part of your business model. Institute sustainable practices in your manufacturing, waste disposal, and distribution operations. Number 5, be honest about your brand's sustainability practices and plans. Inform consumers about how green your individual products are, as well as your company's overall sustainability practices. When discussing plans or goals, be specific about your targets and timelines so consumers can hold you accountable. And finally, number 6, make sure images on ads and packaging are not misleading. Don't use the color green or images from nature like trees and flowers to imply that your products are or brand are eco-friendly if that is not the case. The following are examples of companies that were caught greenwashing. The International Sports Organization, FIFA, faced public backlash after it claimed its 2022 Qatar FIFA World Cup would be fully carbon neutral, which means the organizers would purchase carbon offsets to counteract all carbon dioxide emissions the tournament generated. Leading up to the event, FIFA released a report detailing its sustainability strategy, but climate experts and activist nonprofit organization found faults with it. Carbon Market Watch, a climate activism organization, released a report that suggested FIFA dramatically underestimated the tournament's emission levels. FIFA has denied accusations of greenwashing and said it's committed to reducing its effect on the climate. However, the organization's public image has suffered since the tournament. This case demonstrates that organizations should not use terms like carbon neutral lightly. Next is IKEA. IKEA launched a sustainability initiative before many of its competitors, including phasing out single-use plastics in 2020 and planning to eliminate plastic from consumer packaging by 2028. However, the furniture retailer faced accusations of greenwashing after a nonprofit organization, Earthsight, launched an investigation into its supply chain. Earthsight released a report in 2021 that suggested IKEA sold wood that suppliers illegally sourced from Russia. Like many organizations, IKEA relies on the Forest Stewardship Council certification to obtain its wood. The FSC is a voluntary forest certification system that claims to help organizations find wood sourced in accordance with strict environmental and social sustainability criteria. However, the illegally sourced wood that IKEA allegedly sold was FSC certified, according to the report. Earthsight's report largely blamed the FSC for IKEA's alleged involvement in the scandal. Following the greenwashing accusations, IKEA said it parted ways with the suppliers. This case highlights the challenges of supply chain sustainability, even for companies that have led the way in terms of environmental, social, and governance actions. The next example is the fashion brand H&M, which faced accusations of greenwashing after a 2022 investigation from the news publication Quartz claimed that brand misled consumers with its environmental scorecards. To offer consumers information about its Conscious Choice collection, H&M used a fashion industry metric called the Higgs Sustainability Profile. This metric gauges how much carbon a material's manufacturing releases into the atmosphere compared to traditional materials. It also compares water and energy usage. However, more than half of H&M's scorecards overstated their respective products' environmental soundness, according to Quartz. In one example, a scorecard for a garment that required 20% more water to create than average said the garment required 20% less water. H&M said a technical error caused this discrepancy. Shortly after Quartz went public with its findings, a consumer filed class action lawsuit against H&M for alleged false advertising of this collection. Misleading marketing like H&M's case has worn down customer trust in corporate sustainability initiatives. Organizations that make false claims may swiftly face greenwashing accusations from an increasingly wary customer base. And finally, Volkswagen. In 2015, the United States Environmental Protection Agency discovered German motor vehicle manufacturer Volkswagen cheated on federal emissions tests to make its vehicles seem less harmful to the environment than they were. Volkswagen had installed software into many of its diesel vehicles that could detect emissions testing scenarios, the EPA said. The software lowered engines' emissions during federal tests to bypass regulations. However, in normal driving scenarios, the engines emitted up to 40 times more nitrogen oxides than the EPA allowed. Volkswagen admitted to cheating on the test, and the company's CEO resigned shortly after the scandal was unraveled. Walmart is one of the largest retailers in the world and one of the most efficient companies in history. In terms of energy, Walmart receives approximately 25% of its energy from renewable sources, which accounts to approximately 2 billion kilowatts of power. While this is short of its overall goal of 100%, progress is being made. Each year, Walmart is developing new projects that address specific issues related to green energy or energy efficiency. For example, it has built approximately 470 renewable energy systems on its facilities that provide 15 to 30% of a store's energy use. In addition, it uses fuel cells at 42 stores and has a wind turbine at its Red Bluff distribution center in California, where it provides 15 to 20% of the energy needed for the site's operations. They have had great success in waste diversion from its stores. However, this is contradicted by the sale of billions of dollars of cheap throwaway goods, often with excessive packaging. Because of Walmart's buying power, they can keep prices low but at the cost of the suppliers hardly paying their employees. Also, the main supply chain is in China, so it takes jobs from the United States and will be hard to assess the sustainability of the supply chain, being that it is global. In recent years, environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, reporting has become an important tool for companies to communicate with the sustainability and responsible governance practices they adopt. As ESG factors have become a critical consideration for investors, customers, and other stakeholders, the credibility and accuracy of such reporting have become increasingly important. The importance of third-party verification of ESG reports cannot be overstated. Third-party verification of ESG reports is a process whereby an independent auditor reviews and validates the information provided in the report to ensure its accuracy and reliability. This verification process can be conducted by external audit firms specializing in ESG rating agencies and other qualified bodies. The verification process involves a thorough review of the report, including the data sources, methodology, and disclosures. Third-party auditing of greenhouse gas emissions inventory is when an independent firm assumes responsibility for assessing an organization's work. A greenhouse gas emissions inventory is then assured by a third party, which offers another level of confidence to stakeholders that the inventory is accurate, reliable, and prepared in accordance with recognized reporting standards and guidelines, such as the Greenhouse Gas Protocol Corporate Standard. Assurances help build trust in an organization's commitment to impacting climate change by managing and reducing its greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas assurances also help demonstrate accountability and transparency. Additionally, the auditing process should identify any inaccuracies or uncertainties in the inventory and provide recommendations for the improvement, which can help organizations using carbon footprint management to reduce their emissions more effectively. The ISO, or International Organization for Standardization, is an independent, non-governmental international organization that develops standards to ensure the quality, safety, and efficiency of products, services, and systems. As technology continues to rapidly develop, new standards are drafted and implemented by people at all levels within the global industry going through the standardization. While there are numerous advantages to being ISO 9001 certified, here are the 5 main advantages of an ISO certification that can bring to manufacturers. 1. Boost employee performance and productivity. 2. Define your company's quality control processes. 3. Reduce waste and improve efficiency. 4. Provide an improved customer experience. And 5, increase confidence in your manufacturing business. Firms around the globe are shifting their focus on sustainability from talk to action. They are developing sustainable products and services and supply chain practices to increase revenue, satisfy investors and regulators, and improve their reputation. Additionally, these practices help them reduce their environmental footprint while saving costs associated with waste and resource and energy consumption. Many corporate leaders find sustainability also helps deepen their organization's sense of purpose to engage and retain a new generation of employees. This shift has been fueled by increasing energy insecurity, rapidly changing regulatory and reporting standards, and investor appetite for environmental, social, and governance performance. Sustainability is good for business, and not just because it mitigates regulatory compliance risk. Gartner researchers said the ability to effectively navigate the global regulatory environment and scale compliance systems will offer companies a significant competitive advantage. Urging business leaders to think further ahead, these analysts predict a carbon flip after an intensive period of innovation and climate mitigation technologies that has already been underway, to be followed by roughly 20 years of implementation for scalable solutions and replacement of carbon-based technologies. As sustainability has morphed from carbon emissions tracking into company-wide commitments to achieve global imperatives, organizations of all kinds find themselves in the business of creating a healthier world. Surely that's progress that will help us breathe a little easier and live longer.